So, my man, Reverse J, what's up?
Yes, sir. How you doing, man? Good to see you, man.
Chilling. So, what we out here for?
It's the wave, man. It's that time. It's time to stop, imagining and not doing, because that's what delusion is.
Mm.
It's very important to understand that you're not delusional for believing what you want to believe. You're delusional for believing what you want to believe, but yet living in this world. So one of the worlds are false. You know what I mean? You either believe what you believe, or you believe what you're told to believe. So to answer your question, what we're doing here is we're starting to behave as if we actually believe.
So, are you saying people aren't behaving? Can you
Uh,
elaborate?
um, sure. If you the thing about manifesting is it takes action, uh, and faith. A lot of people are not even aware that they're alive, and it sounds crazy, man, but they're sleepy. Biggie Small said, "Your whole life you live sleepy. Death controls y'all." You know what I mean? It's like your entire life you're living not to die, as opposed to living. Uh, that the statement, "A coward dies 1,000 deaths, a soldier dies but once," is talking about the mind. It's not necessarily a war call. It's more or less about how you view life and how you view death. And a lot of go ahead. I'm sorry, bro.
I was going to ask. So, are you saying a lot of people are alive but not living?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'll even go a step further and say they don't know what it means to live.
So, do you know what it means to live?
I think I'm on the precipice of finding out. So, maybe that's what living is. Finding the purpose, finding the meaning of life. And the meaning of life is really because people, it's like everything that you are aware of and everybody that you're aware of, no matter how great they are, Jesus Christ, Santa Claus, Winnie the Pooh, whoever, they've all passed. They've all died. Everything, every tree, every blade of grass, everything has so-called died. So what if that's why we're here?
We live to die.
Yeah. What if?
Or is it that we live to die, dying meaning elevating into a higher level?
Yeah. So maybe it's the death is an illusion. Death is an illusion. It's not like water doesn't die. Like when you see a patch of grass die, you don't think, "Oh man, that patch of grass has died." You just recognize it's a process.
Cycle of life.
You know what I mean? You just recognize that, and this is important because you can't fear God and death at the same time. It makes no sense to fear death because it's something that's going to happen. So I don't know, go crazy. I mean, put it, what I mean, as something you're I want to say waiting on, but maybe you start preparing for it. Maybe you're living for it. Go towards it. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Go towards it. You know what I mean? Work towards it. Hey, man. Okay, so you did not get to decide to be in this movie. Your mom and dad, even before them, God decided that. So, okay, you've entered this contract, this binding contract that you've had no part in. So at least I'm going to decide how I'm going out. That's what I will decide. And what you're doing now is building memories for that day. See, because what people don't realize is, and I know they don't realize it because of how they live, you're living in your head now. And what I mean by that is tomorrow, this will be in your head. This day will be in your head tomorrow. So start living things you would like to remember. You know what I mean? We're thinking in reverse, if you will. Thinking of a plug. We're thinking in reverse because you spend all day fantasizing about the future. And one thing you need to understand about the future is that it does not exist. It's not there. There's nothing there. The future, it will never be there. There's no such thing as the future. And that's why they say tomorrow never comes, because once tomorrow comes, it will be today. Live in the present. Live
because the future is actually what you make it now.
Exactly. So it's right now. That world you keep going back to and fantasizing about, bro. It's the world you're living in, believe it or not. that escape you have when you at work and you're like, man, I'm finna just go into autopilot. Like you shut off and you just, you got your own music, you got your own certain girls that have certain roles. I know what you do, bro. I know what you do, man.
So are you saying just telling people to, live their lives to the fullest so they're satisfied with the future that they can make now, so that when it's time to dip?
Well, what I want people to understand is, see, if you know you're going to die, accept it now. And what does that mean to accept it now? So I choose to believe that I'm dead now. If it's going to happen, and no matter what, there's nothing I can do to prevent that, why not live as if it's already happened?
So how do you accept it?
You don't have a choice. I think people are crazy. that's what I think. I think people are crazy. You can't deny the inevitable. It only makes sense to prepare for it. It only makes sense to know that it's coming and redirect your brain and understand that, okay, if God is good, which he is, which I believe he is, which all believers believe he is, then this isn't bad if he knows it's going to happen. And I mean, this literally, it takes a revolution. I understand it does not hit the ears well, but that's it. You have to accept it. You have to. This is an experience. This is an experience not to be wasted. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening.
So you're talking about a revolution. What is this revolution that you're talking about?
See, for not even people say 400 years ago, and it's like, I don't know where that came from, but that is so false. My grandfather, who just dropped me off at work the other day, is almost 90. His grandmother was a slave, and he's my great grandfather, so he was closer to slavery than I am to him.
Wow.
So I mean, you got to understand that they used to breed. It's like, I just read about a man, I forget where he was, I think it was in Kentucky, got busted for being inhumane to dogs, and they were making the dogs interbreed. And it's like, man, that was happening to my people for hundreds and hundreds of years. You have to understand that freedom rights is not what my people fought for. Mm-hmm. It's humanity. Mm-hmm. It's to be called human.
I think it's funny because I don't think a lot of people get the aspect of how terrifying and how heinous slavery was. Me and my folks were just talking about it today. I've never heard this, but they told me, I forgot at which museum, but they said that slave masters would take pregnant slaves and bury them so that only their stomachs were shown, mm-hmm. and they would whip the stomachs.
And so to understand what we're dealing with is Michael Vick was I mean, they wanted to hang Michael Vick. Michael Vick was crucified on television for cruelty to animals. And it's like, slavery is not something that happened. Slavery is not something that black people went through. Our story is not slavery. Slavery is a relic of the real issue, and that is the idea that that black people, that Africans, true-blooded Africans, are full human beings. You have to understand that the greatest scientists and biologists and the greatest European minds that were available at that time were writing books and studies suggesting that I was not full human. You see, this wasn't something that happened in the 40s, in the 1800s, and then ended in the 60s, and then something that, okay, you know what I mean? Everything is cool now. That's not what happened. What happened was a complete rewire of the human consciousness, man, of mine at least.
So are you saying
of my people's?
So are you saying this revolution we need is for the people of color to break away from the systematic oppression that has been carried on for generation and generation?
Well, see, racism isn't a disease. Racism is like it's not something that affected black people. Racism is something that is a disease that affected all humanity, just in different ways. You know what I mean? racism is nothing but a relic of capitalism. The idea that there has to be a lesser class. It's okay with being rich. The idea that there has to be a lesser class, because the thing about capitalism is it does not work another way. There has to be the economy has to be stabilized by poor people. That's the only way it works. It's a dog eat dog economy. There has to be exploitable people for it to work. That's what capitalism is. It does not work any other way.
So you feel the government or whatever is going on, at least in this country, has an agenda to keep poor people poor and rich people rich?
Well, I mean, I think that's a pretty that's a dark way of putting it. I think more or less it's just that capitalism. I mean, it like the sale and commerce, exploitation. It does not work any other way. See, the thing that made slavery racist wasn't that people owned slaves. It wasn't that people owned black slaves.
It was the way how they treated the slaves.
It wasn't even that. It was the fact that I couldn't buy a white slave. That's what made slavery racist. You know, so I mean, once you understand that, because racism is a game that all people play in different ways, and you know, you just have to learn to leverage it. So now groups are gaining power, right? So that's why you're starting to see rises of certain groups. Black Lives Matter, the Oath Keepers, LGBT. In the LGBT community, it's like, you know, you got a lot of people who are mad and saying the way they're being overrepresented on television, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not true. But I mean, what happened was they put their money together, and they start putting money behind different politicians. I mean, Obama, you know, signed the bill, let them have the right to be married. That's how it works. They, you know, that's how American politics works. It's what puppet can we buy, and some cost more than others. So black people, we have to stop being so emotional. It's nothing really to be mad at. You know what I mean? It's just something to emulate. So hey, I mean, now it does kind of, you know, I'm not to say that I have a problem with gay black men being represented, but man, ain't no gay Jewish man. That's all I'm saying. What a gay Chinese man at? Why do I never see a Chinese man in a dress? What if I like Chinese men? You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. That's maybe that's what I mean. No, hey, there's nothing wrong with you being on TV. I'm not saying black gay men are being overrepresented, but there's a lot of underrepresented gay men of other races. You know what I mean? So we'll see where that comment goes. But
so you're saying a lot of things around are catering to some more than others?
Well, businesses have to cater. That's what they do. So now whether they are creating to supply a need or are they creating a need goes to be seen. I was just talking to someone like, man, those people are genius, man. I mean seriously, from a kid, you're like a Happy Meal, and it seems so basic because it's so ingrained in our human psyche. It's like, I'm hungry as a kid, I want some McDonald's. It's like we joke, we do more promotion for brands, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. We created. I told, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, he tell all kids, man, you're a future brand ambassador. Whatever you are, whatever you do, that brand will be sold based on what you bring to it. So I mean, once you understand that, man, and get a control, once you understand that and believe that, you'll start understanding what's been happening and what this has really been about. See, I'm from the North End, man, Mansfield, Ohio. I grew up on Buckingham, I grew up on Harker, I grew up on Johns, I grew up on King Street. When I went to senior high, they called the algebra classes, the advanced classes, we called them the white people class. You know what I mean? I didn't know too many. I didn't know how I sound. You know what I mean? I didn't know I was putting myself down. It made sense. My grandma told me I had nappy hair. I didn't know she was brainwashed. I had no idea. People used to talk about me for being dark skinned. You know what I mean? These are things that, so when I talk about a revolution, you know, I'm still answering that question. It's like, that's what I mean.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Understanding who you are.
Right.
Actually, and what's been going on and to say, hey, I'm not here to start war, I'm not here to cause trouble, but these things need to be fixed. Now, the only reason you will resist me fixing these things is if you had a hidden agenda. So, and I guess that comes back on to answer your other question.
So, do you think there are hidden agendas around here? And I'm, at least for us black folks, I see that we have been trying to do something when it comes to changing how at least this country sees us, culture, creed, class, all of that. So, this revolution, I feel like, how do we get everyone on the same page and the same mentality to actually think? Like, for example, how are we going to get we'll put it like this: how are we going to get these kids in this city to realize that what you need to do is graduate high school, go out and get yourself a LLC, start a business?
Their fathers aren't home. Their mothers aren't home. There's no. We had a conversation about the school system, and it's like, man, you can't. Education does not start at school, and especially not public school. What school is a micro society for children. And what that means is the individuals who understand how to carry themselves and behave in a society will flourish in school. Things have to be done at a certain time. You have to dress a certain way. If you want a reaction to certain people, you have to present yourself a certain way. These are all things that are learned at home and then performed in school. In school. And what happens is people are literally graded on what kind of individual they will be in society. And once you get that grade or that marker, that GPA is what they call it, that human grade, that long-witted IQ test that they give individuals, you are judged and classed and labeled in society based on whoever you were in this micro society. It is to prepare you. You know what I mean?
I feel like school and even college is set up to get people to be comfortable with the systematic creation that is jobs, to get you used to working for a specific amount of money that you have enough to be able to pay your bills, pay your rent, get your car note, so that you have to come back again and be dependent on your job. Some pays more than others.
Yeah. See, the thing about school, we were indoctrinated. We weren't necessarily taught. You can't teach me anything if you don't teach me about myself first.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I never learned anything. I just memorized shit. I never, you know what I mean? I never learned. Okay, what do you think you would do in this time? I grew up in Pentecostal Kojic black church. So I think I've read every story. I think I'm aware of every book, everything in the Bible, all 66 books. But what I started doing recently is I started reading the Bible and placing myself in certain characters' shoes. You know what I mean? And I believe that's how school should have been taught. You know, I don't necessarily look, man. I'm a whiz on European history. I mean, honest to God, I mean, it's like I couldn't apply that out here. I felt left out because I wanted to be Napoleon. Those are the ideologies I adapted. I wanted to be Napoleon. I wanted to be Marcus Crashes. You know what I mean? I wanted to be those guys. Those are the people I looked up to.